The Raven and the First Men, the beginnings of the Haida. In the spirit world, the trickster god Raven grew bored. He decided to leave and fly over the earth, but he found it was in total darkness. The selfish sky chief had been hoarding daylight from the world. Raven wanted to be able to see the earth as he flew over it, so he decided to play a trick on the chief and steal the light. Raven crept into the chief's dwelling. He appeared as a baby with raven hair and black eyes. The chief's daughter adopted the child, never knowing that he was in fact Raven, the trickster. The daughter loved the child, but soon the baby began to cry. The sky chief did whatever he could to comfort his new grandson, but the baby was inconsolable. Finally, to appease the child, he gave him a small box to play with. Raven, as the baby, tumbled and tossed the box until it fell open. Whoosh! The stars flew up through the smoke hole in the ceiling, settling in the night sky. The chief was very upset, but was able to recover as they were only stars and not very bright. But in no time, the baby grew bored again and shrieked violently. Finally, the chief gave the child another box to entertain him. Raven, disguised as the baby, began to play even more wildly with the second box. He tumbled it hard, and again it fell open. The moon spilled from the box, and in excitement, the child tossed it high into the sky. The chief tried to catch the moon before it escaped, but it was too late. He resolved not to let the child have anything else to play with. Instead, he decided his daughter would just have to give the child to another woman. But his daughter refused. She had grown to love the baby, despite his irritable behavior. Once again, the child became bored and wailed profusely, his black eyes flashing mischievously like a raven's. The chief did everything he could think of to calm the child. Nevertheless, the baby cried on and pointed at a third box in the corner. Before the chief could move, his daughter handed the child this new toy to play with. This time, knowing the treasure that lay inside, the child turned back into Raven, who snatched the box in his beak and flew up through the smoke hole in the ceiling. Once away from the sky chief, Raven released the sun from its confinement. Light shone across the entire earth, illuminating mountains, rivers, and oceans. Raven no longer had to fly through the dark. But in Raven's travels, he saw there was no one to take care of the earth. He landed on a bench and stopped to think about how to solve this problem. Then he saw a huge clamshell. It seemed to be making noise. Curious, Raven approached and saw a group of tiny creatures in the shell. When they saw Raven, they huddled together and tried to hide. Raven opened his beak and sang a beautiful song, calming the creatures in the shell. Then, using his powerful talons, he opened the shell and released the first human beings. The men were hungry and thirsty, but there was no food on the large sandy beach, and the salt water just made them thirstier. Determined to take care of the men he had found, Raven flew to find them provisions. When he returned, he gave them almost everything they would ever need. Still, Raven could tell the people were not truly happy. They didn't have companions to join them in caring for the earth. So Raven, wise and determined, searched the earth until he found a group of women trapped inside a chitin. He brought them to the men. Two groups of humans fit together well, and Raven became very protective of his people. Though he still played a trick every now and then, Raven always cared for and provided for them. Ever since, Raven has been the mediator between the human world and the spirit world, between life and what comes after.